everybody, my name is Emily and I'm with the Community Learning Team at the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. I wanted to come and talk to you today about mosses. This amazing group of plants which is kind of overlooked. Often it's confused with other types of living things. Some of them aren't even plants. We often look at a moss and think it's something like a lichen, although it's not. If you do want to learn about lichens, scroll down on our page. We have a whole amazing video about these incredible creatures and how they live. But in terms of mosses, what are they? Well, we can see a bunch of them growing behind me on this log. Mosses are essentially tiny little plants, and they're some of the most ancient plants on Earth. They were the very first type of plants in the world that were able to live out of the water and on the ground. And they've been wildly successful for millions of years. Really unbelievable. One of the things that we kind of notice about mosses is that they're tiny. They're really, really small. I'm holding some moss here, and they really don't look very big. And they've actually been able to be really successful by being so small, just kind of wedging themselves into all of these different micro habitats all over the world. And in fact, there are 20,000 different kinds of mosses that we know of in the world, maybe even a few more. Okay, so we know there's a lot of them, we know that they're small, but what is a moss exactly? Well, a moss is a small plant, but most often they're defined more by what they don't have, by what they do have. They're very simple plants, so they don't have roots. They just kind of anchor onto places like this log with just like a little thing called a rhizome that just holds them in place, but it doesn't take up water or nutrients like the roots of plants or trees. So they don't have roots, they don't have seeds, they don't have fruits, and we know that they like to live in these really big groups and clumps. So if I show you some moss close up, it might look like I'm holding up one plant with a lot of different leaves, but each of these, this is actually a big group, a colony of mosses that are all living together. An individual moss plant is pretty small, actually, only around that big. So keep that in mind. You're really looking at a community of living things when you're looking at a moss. Pretty amazing. And mosses are different depending on the type of environment that you happen to be in. I'm in a deciduous forest, which means that I'm surrounded by broadleaf trees that every fall drop all of their leaves onto the ground. You can see a lot of them right here. And so in an environment like this, mosses don't grow on the ground, because if they did, every fall they would be like smothered and suffocated by this big carpet of leaves that falls. So in the sort of place that I'm in right now, we often see mosses any place that they can get that isn't on the ground, like on logs and boulders and little snags and stumps, and they really just take advantage of living there competitively, where they couldn't compete on the forest floor. However, if you do go to a coniferous woodland where the trees don't have leaves that drop every year, you might find beautiful carpets of mosses that just kind of cover the entire ground area, and it can be really, really stunning as well. So, mosses also, unlike other plants, unlike many other plants, they don't have seeds and they don't have fruits. So the way that they reproduce is through spores, and you can see something pretty amazing here. If you look at this moss community this way, a number of the plants have these little structures that are sticking up above the green surface, and these are sporophytes. These are little structures that the moss creates, and then when they're ready, they can just kind of send out their spores into the world through these little structures so that they can colonize new and amazing places. And a lot of mosses, if you do see your own moss, you can find mosses really anywhere in the world. You can find them in sidewalk cracks, on buildings, on logs. Look and see if you can find these layers and if you can find these sporophytes, because it's pretty cool to think about them having these two layers. Although, in some cases, mosses choose not to use sporophytes to reproduce, and you might find if you look at a moss that you can see just kind of more of a uniform carpet of the leaves of the moss, because mosses can also reproduce by making little clone offshoots of themselves. So And some different types of moss are really committed to one way versus another of reproducing. Some just really like to switch it up. It's really, really, really amazing. Yeah. So next time you're out and about, anywhere in the world really, anywhere outdoors, maybe you can even just look at your own home, the building that you live in, to see if you can find any moss in or on it. Check out the mosses that might be around. See if you can find these spore structures. See if you can really appreciate the beautiful patterns that are made by their leaves. And yeah, think about the fact that, you know, these types of moss may have been around your community for millions of years before you even got there. I think it's a pretty cool thing to mull over. Good luck. Thanks.